What happens in a capitalist society when the consumers can no longer afford to consume? With the looming promise of tariffs on nearly all imports, coupled with the planned deportation of immigrants and migrant workers, we will see our grocery bills and other expenses rise significantly. At this point, the American consumer will be priced out of the market. This will begin with the most vulnerable of our population, including those who are already on public assistance and those on a fixed income. Add to this the plan to again cut taxes for the very wealthy and pay for it by cutting those public assistance programs. We will literally see people starving, and worse. Another thing to consider is that there is a danger in concentrating all the wealth to the top wealthiest 1, 2, or even 10%, which is fiat, also known as faith-based money, loses value if consumers don't have it to spend. The wealthy have the luxury of hoarding their money. The vast majority need to spend it on the most basic of necessities, like transportation to their underpaying jobs, and the purchase of way overpriced food, goods, and services. For many, there isn't even the opportunity to build wealth through home ownership. This is especially true for most of the younger generation. How did we get here? Anyone who took a college economics class knows about the Glass-Steagall Act, also known as the Banking Act of 1933. This was a law that separated commercial and investment banking activities in the United States. This act was designed to prevent the risky combination of commercial and investment banking that led to the 1929 stock market crash and the Great Depression. It required banks to choose between commercial banking and investment banking. This also prohibited banks from affiliating with companies involved in securities, underwriting, and distribution. That meant you could be a Wall Street investment banker or, say, a building and loan banker, but not both. This insulated commercial banking from the gambling nature of investment banking. One or more investment banks could fail, or the stock markets could crash, and the commercial banks would still operate as usual. The Glass-Steagall Act was a firewall that was a key component in the 60 years of the largest sustained period of economic growth following the Great Depression. This led to 60 years of expansion for the middle class, the largest increase in productivity in the United States, and the largest increase in median income. We were able to fund our efforts in World War II and lead technological advancements that built the space program and provided significant technology-based conveniences to the American public. The U.S. economy was booming sustainably. So what changed? While there was an overall upward market trend, there were the occasional market corrections that caused downturns or smaller recessions. In the 1980s, President Reagan ran on a deregulation platform. His rhetoric blamed the regulations for the 1970s economic downturn. The U.S. economy had actually hit a stagnation point. This was caused by many factors that had nothing to do with the regulations on U.S. banks. There was increased competitive foreign production of metals like steel that caused a crisis forcing the U.S. and Europe to restructure those industries. Then there was the Arab-Israeli war where OPEC nations imposed on an oil embargo on the United States for helping resupply the Israeli military. This was followed by a 4% drop in oil production during the Iranian Revolution that caused the markets to drastically raise the cost of crude oil to nearly double over the course of 1 year. This led to an energy crisis throughout 1979. This is how the culture of deregulation began. Various consumer regulatory protections are removed, and finally in 1999, the Glass-Steagall Act is repealed. The firewall is gone, and now investment banks can gamble and everyone's money on poorly structured and deceptive high-risk investment schemes. Since then, the United States economy has seen some of its worst recessions in its history, like the subprime lending bubble. The latest hit to consumers is inflation. Despite this being a global issue, the pandemic caused a supply chain disruption that led to backlogs of work orders for goods and services. There is the ongoing global volatility of energy prices. According to a Groundwork report, corporate profits, also known as the insatiable greed of the corporations and their investors, drove 53% of inflation from April to September 2023. International conflicts like the war in Ukraine add stress to the global economy. We are having a housing crisis, which has also contributed to the recent surge in inflation due to artificially high rates for home ownership. The economic stimulus, while welcomed at the time, made corporations exploit the consumers to pull more profit from those same consumers when there was no reason to believe the stimulus would continue. And lest we forget the fact that wages continue to stagnate. Your money is being devalued while your expenses increase. And we put a bunch of billionaire oligarchs in charge. People who are trying to convince us that grandma needs to go back to work and stop taking her life-saving meds so they can get an additional unnecessary tax break. The last time we took an America First nationalistic stance, we had the Smoot-Hawley Tariff of 1930, which ended up being a huge factor of the Great Depression. But what does this all mean? It means that every proposed solution we currently have will result in economic harm to the general public. It means that the potential for an economic collapse, taking down the global economy with it. It means a fire sale of assets that will only benefit the very wealthy, further carving up what little we have between the wealthiest of the population. Economists have predicted implementation of Trump's economic policy will result in an economic crash that will have rippling effects on a global scale. Even Musk has said Americans must suffer hardships, while he maintains more wealth through even more tax breaks. Now, it's possible that none of these policies will come to fruition. Trump has already walked back his promises to lower food prices. Likely, we will see more of the same policy, just with constant whining about how anything that goes wrong was caused by any previous administration Trump remembers. While we all have to wait for what effects the new Trump presidency will bring, I have little hope that there will be much to be positive about. Please like and subscribe for more updates like this.